I will call this meeting of the Bloomington Environmental Commission to order on August 19th at 2021 at 6 p.m. We'll move along with our agenda to roll call. Linda, can you keep track as we go through since Ben is not here? All right. Sam Armstrong.
Present.
Matthias Banco. Matt Caldy. Thought I saw Matt here. Matt is still muted. All right. Don Eggert.
Here. Matt responded by chat and he said here, having mic problems.
Okay, Matt is here. Daniel Gonzalez. I am here. Mike Litwin.
Present.
Dave Parkhurst. Corey Ray. Scott Shackelford. Damia Whitney.
Here.
All right, by my count, we have 6 members present. We need a quorum of 6. So we will proceed on with the rest of our agenda for this evening. Next is introductions. I don't see anybody new nor any members of the public, so I don't believe we need to introduce ourselves beyond our name, which we did during the roll call. So we'll move on, unless anyone has an objection, we'll move on to the next item, which is approval of minutes. I assume everyone got a chance to read over the minutes from July that Ben sent out. Did anyone have any amendments to those minutes? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll move along down the roll call. Sam Armstrong.
Here.
This is a vote on the minutes.
No, I approve. Yes.
Matt Caldy.
Also yes.
Glad to see you got your mic fixed. Don Eggert.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mike Litwin.
Yes.
And Damia Whitney.
Yes.
Excellent. The minutes are approved unanimously. Move on next to public comment. We have 20 minutes allocated to public comment for this evening with a limit of maximum of 5 minutes per person. If any of the member of the public wishes to speak, they may send a message in the chat, or they may raise their hand using the raise hand function, or message our host, which I believe this evening is Linda Thompson. I see no members of the public currently present. So with that, we will close the public comment period for the evening and move along to the next item on our agenda, which is reports from various commissions, starting with Tree Commission. Is there a report this evening for Tree Commission? Or Dave is not here. Damia, did you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We met with the Bloomington Canopy Project people, and they sort of explained what they had in mind, which is to supplement the ability of the city to manage trees that contribute to the canopy. They have their eye on private landowners as opposed to public trees, because the urban forester and the tree commission can, help regulate that. So they're just getting started, but they're applying for funding, and the tree commission thought that that was a good idea. If they can get it off the ground and keep it going, that'd be great. So that's about the only thing of note that I remember. I usually send out minutes, but I haven't read them since I wrote them. So that's what I got.
Perfect. Thank you to Damia for the report. Are there any questions for Damia on her report for Tree Commission? Seeing none, we'll move along to our next commission, which is the Monroe County Environmental Commission. The Monroe County Environmental Commission met in July. They got a presentation from Lauren Travis, who's also a member of that commission, and also the Assistant Director of Sustainability for the city. They got a presentation from her on the Bloomington Green Home Improvement Program. And then they discussed urban sprawl in the county regarding developments for housing and such. Beyond that, they will be getting a new member starting this month. They actually already had the meeting for this month, but they don't.
I think Andrew might have froze.
And frozen.
Did I freeze?
Yes, you did.
Oh, wonderful. What was the last thing I said?
That they got a report.
They got a report from Lauren Travis on the Green Home Improvement Program. They discussed urban sprawl in the county regarding development, and they're getting a new member starting in August, but I don't know who that new member is. They already held their meeting for this month, but because as last time I checked, they don't, they're not on CATS, and they don't post the videos or the minutes until later in the month. So I don't have an update on their August meeting yet. Any questions for the Monroe County Environmental Commission report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability. Is there a report from BCOS tonight?
Very brief. Basically, went pretty quickly. Just there seemed to be more discussion among the commissioners. They went through a quick introduction, little quick review of this, what's up in front of the city council for this month, which pretty much has already happened. There was quite a bit of discussion about outreach for waste and also emissions of problems with trying to get citizen participation. There was discussion, significant discussion about problems with apartments with both recycling and, excuse me, and composting, and frustration with, it's apparently quite difficult for residents of apartments, and it's kind of all over the place as far as what is possible. Very quickly, just sort of an impression that it got to be a fairly heavy political discussion of problems with emissions, which prompted me to think more in terms of POGO, that perhaps we need, as both for the Environmental Commission and the Sustainability Commission, need to focus more on what we can do as citizens of the community. And I mean, I've knocked my head against the wall as far as problems with the state legislature tying our hands. So we have to be able to act on our own. So that was sort of my own observation of the meeting. But one other very important one that there seems to be now with their new commissioners, there seems to be renewed interest in reactivating their working group on waste. That's very encouraging. That's all I have.
Thank you, Don. Does anyone have any questions for Don on the report for BCOS? Seeing none, we'll move along to our next
recording in progress,
which is ERAC. Dave, is there a report for ERAC for this month?
Yeah, and I suppose Didemia has already told you that the Tree Commission has taken the month of August off. So
I forgot. So that's good.
No. So anyway, I'm in late because my Mac doesn't like to work with Microsoft programs like Word. And sometimes I have a tremendous difficulty opening Word documents, and I did tonight. So I would ask Linda, please, to give us the links to these meetings outside of the Word document just directly by email in the future. That would be very helpful to me. Anyway, that's why I came in late. All right, ERAC. We met on August 11th. Joanna Sparks mentioned that various native plants around the city are looking good despite the heat. The next thing was to talk about a new shelter that's being built at Leonard Springs Nature Park. And it'll be 20 feet by 30 feet. And they showed us the plans for that. We talked about trail signs and boot brushes that are going up at various parks. Talked about weed wrangles that Don always likes to tell us about as well. The Griffey Loop Trail and Fishing Pier will go out to bid tomorrow, August 20th. We talked about education updates. There will be 700 to 800 sixth grade students going to Leonard Springs this fall. And then there will also be 4th grade kids going to Griffey this year. Bird Fest and Bug Fest will happen this year. We talked about the Latimer Woods Management Plan and the Brown Woods Management Plan. I hadn't heard of Brown Woods before, but it's over by the Twin Lakes area. And we then talked about a stream that has been buried in the past at Switchyard and has been daylighted. And that sounded good. And that was most of our meeting of ERAC.
Thank you, Dave. Does anyone have any questions for Dave regarding the ERAC report? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next report, which is the MPO Citizens Advisory Committee, Metropolitan Planning Organization Citizens Advisory Committee. The Metropolitan Planning Organization has taken the month of August off, so there's no significant report for them for that. And the July report, or the July minutes for the MPO are unremarkable in terms of anything environmental. They're still just discussing planning going up towards 2026. But no specific projects are really nailed down this early in that process. So we don't know potential environmental impacts, but as those come in over the next several years, the Environmental Commission, I believe, will want to keep an eye out on those projects, as several of them involve or could involve things such as widening roads in some areas, which obviously eats into green space. So those are things to consider in the future. But as of right now, they're not deciding anything of consequence to us. So does anyone have any questions regarding the MPO? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next report, which is from Friends of Lake Monroe. Does Friends of Lake Monroe have a report this evening?
No, nothing has happened since our last meeting, which I told you about then. So nothing new.
Excellent. Then we'll move on to MC Iris. Does MC Iris have a report this evening?
Oh, other than I've sent out the notes, I really want to stress the idea, passing on the word about the native plant sale that's coming up on the 11th of September, Saturday, at Switchyard Park. Also with MC Iris, the weed wrangle for the first Saturday, and which also in conflict with that, or does it, is going to be the RCA Park, which from my point of view touches on the idea of the Clear Creek corridor, and getting an idea of what conditions are like in around RCA Park, and as far as what's in the park, both native and non-native.
Thank you, Don. Does anyone have any questions for Don on MC Iris?
One thing at RCA Park that's interesting to me is that there are quite a few cup plants, which is a native that produces a lot of yellow sunflower-like flowers. And so that's kind of neat.
I have a north-facing, this is a complete tangent. I have a north-facing little garden that I plant native, like I plant columbine and stuff in it that does well in shade. But I had a bird feeder that I took down when they told us to take the bird feeders down back there. And I must have spilled some seed coming in because now I have 2 or 3 sunflowers poking up and blooming facing north, which is, and I have a tree line right next to my garden area. So there's no light at all during the day. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, thank you everyone for our reports from various commissions. We'll move on our agenda to discussion from active working groups. First one up is Ecpc and Plan Commission. Linda, do you have quite a few reports I see. Would you like to start?
Yes. The first one I'm going to talk about is the overlook on 3rd Street, East 3rd Street. We've talked about this one before. Last month it got continued, but it'll.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, was there a question? Oh, I just heard something. Anyway, this is a major site plan request for 175 unit non-residential multifamily apartment and a self storage building. It's on about 10 acres on the at the northwest corner of State Road 46 and 446. It'll have 5 multifamily buildings and 1 multi-story climate-controlled self-storage building. The stormwater will be provided by underground detention. So the issues that we've got here are a maintenance manual for the underground detention, recycling space, and green building practices. So the next one is called University Property 6, and it's at 7th and Lincoln. And it is a request for a major site plan for a 4-story residential structure with 16 units. And it's in the mixed-use student housing district. Currently, there are 2 structures there, and they will be demolished. And they're proposing a 4-story residential building with a mix of studios and 2-bedroom units. And it'll have a basement level parking garage with 10 spaces. They'll be removing the current entrance on 17th Street and adding one on Lincoln, and the new tree plots and sidewalks and a multi-use path will be constructed. They haven't given us a landscape plan yet, and we're expecting some revisions because wait a minute, I beg your pardon. The landscape plan they gave us had some problems in it. The landscaping was superimposed over a parking lot. So that was kind of a mistake. So we're expecting revisions on that one. The next one is Ivy Chase. And right now it's still on the agenda. But we are expecting some probably pretty major revisions on that one. It's the one that has been approved before, and but now they have to follow the current UDO rules. And they're asking for some variances that are questionable. They're asking for cul-de-sacs, and that's not an environmental commission issue, but the property has a number of sinkholes. It's mostly wooded. And one of the other variances they're asking for is the Carson tree conservation easements to be on people's private property instead of common area, and that's, so we're expecting some revisions there. Aspen Heights, we've talked about this one before. It's at 703 Gorley Pike. They're requesting approval of a major site plan on 12.5 acres to allow 241 unit student housing development. Currently, this site has 15 buildings, surface parking lot, and a pool, and those will all be demolished, and there'll be when it's done, the proposal is that there'll be 495 parking spots on the site. And there is a surface water course, and it'll need a riparian buffer easement. There's some steep slopes adjacent to that, and close canopy wooded area all along the south side of the site. So that's something we'll have to make sure gets in the final plan. The next one is Johnson Creamery. We talked about this a couple of years ago, but they've changed the proposal pretty much completely because there is a giant box culvert that goes under the building, and it was going to be too difficult and too expensive to move that, so they're changing the footprint of the building. It'll be a 5-story building, and in the MDDC district, and it's part of the Johnson Creamery property, and it'll be on the north end where there's currently a parking lot. So 8th Street sits to the north, and the Beeline Trail sits to the east, and an alley to the west. The first level will be for parking, and a lobby and service areas. Floors 2 through floor 4 will be just residential units, and then level 5 will have more residential units, but they'll have both an indoor and outdoor deck amenity spaces. And they are seeking the development incentives so they can get a story higher than would be normally allowed. They need to submit a landscape plan. Even though the petitioner statement says that they are trying to mimic the old industrial character, there's no limestone used, but they are planning light-colored hardscape, covered parking, cool or vegetated roof, solar panels, and they are also seeking less than the minimum parking spaces. And the one main issue is they have a surface parking lot adjacent to the Beeline Trail, which it would be really nice if they would move that somewhere besides being adjacent to the Beeline Trail. But we are expecting some revisions on that one also. And the last one I'm going to talk about is Ridgefield, which is on North Prow Road, or it's off of North Prow Road in the 3500 block of Hackberry Street. And it's a request for a final plan and a preliminary plat amendment for a current PUD. In the past, there have been many deficiencies in what they've built already. So with this new plan, they intend to remedy the deficiencies, and they also want to change a few things, including a reduction of the size of the tree preservation requested. And so that's a big red flag for the EC. They have a paved eyebrow that's probably way more pavement than they need. And they need to make some adjustments to the landscape plan. But primarily, it's a matter of them wanting less tree preservation than originally. And that is all of them.
That was only a couple. Linda, you don't have any more?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said, Andrew, but Dave's got his hand up.
I said, it was a joke. Never mind. Dave, yes.
Yeah, well, Johnson Creamery reminds me that back in the 70s, we used to get milk delivered from Johnson Creamery in returnable glass bottles. And that reminds me that I'm now getting, and some of you might be interested, there's a company that does delivery of milk in returnable glass bottles here in Bloomington called Oberweis. Actually, they probably pronounce it Oberweis, but my German tells me it's Oberweis. And so every 2 weeks, I get 2 half gallons of milk delivered in returnable glass bottles. And so it's good stuff. And if anybody's interested, get in touch with me by email and I'll tell you how to contact them.
Sounds like a great idea. I remember having a milk box right outside the back door also when I was a kid.
Anyone have any questions for Linda? I had a question about Ivy Chase.
Yes?
You had mentioned, I should have written it down. You mentioned something about Ivy Chase that stuck out to me. And for the dickens of me, I can't remember what it is.
Sinkholes.
Sinkholes.
Canopy?
Yes. No, so the sinkholes and the tree conservation districts on private property, how would that even work? Because you can't change anything about them. So what would the benefit be of them being private property?
Well, the benefit is that they can sell a larger lot. That's the benefit for them, and not keep it in a common area. But the downside is that the conservancy easements will be on the back of individual people's properties, and there's really no way we can monitor to make sure that they are adhering to the requirements for conservation easement. And so in other developments where it's been that way, it's been it has not worked well.
To me, it sounds like you're just asking for trouble for a homeowner to cut down some trees and then say, well, it was sold to me as my property. Why can't I do it? And then you have a legal fight over tree conservation.
That's right. And that has happened in the past, which is why we don't allow it anymore through the UDO.
Okay. So I don't think that's one likely to be approved by staff. Recommendation would be to deny that, I would assume.
Probably.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on it then, because I'd like, if it even makes it to where it's even a question, I would like to speak on that at that meeting and explain why that's a terrible idea. Okay. Any other questions for Linda on the ECPC reports?
Mike?
Yes.
On the Overlook project, is that in the Lake Monroe watershed?
I don't think it is, Mike. I can't answer that with certainty, but I don't think that is. I don't think anything actually in our city limits is. So
From Friends of Lake Monroe, I understand that no part of the city of Bloomington is in the watershed.
That was what I was thinking too.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions for Linda? I'm scrolling through, make sure no hands are raised. All right, excellent. Thank you, Linda, for all that. I'll be in contact with you about ones that you think are worthwhile, presenting to the Plan Commission about. We'll discuss that before the next Plan Commission meeting.
Okay, yeah, we should plan on doing that after the final revisions.
Perfect. As soon as you get those, can you let me know, and then we'll schedule.
Of course.
Perfect. Thank you, Linda. All right, since I see no further questions for ECPC, we'll move along then to the outreach working group. Ben, Did you want to present on this?
Yeah, sure. So I guess first we'll talk about Eco Heroes. Recently, I went to all the schools in the Bloomington area and handed out flyers and information on Eco Heroes. And a lot of teachers, I got responses that they're going to be telling their students about it. So hopefully we'll get a lot of participation for Eco Heroes this year. We also have a record amount of money, I guess, because we have money left over from the previous year and from this coming year. So what Linda and I have been discussing is making like a Eco Heroes tote bag as a gift to the winners. So I just finished designing that yesterday, and we found a Bloomington approved vendor to print those out for us on the tote bags. And our plan is to have all the EC members get one and also the winners too for that. So that's kind of exciting. I can send you guys all a mock draft of that when it's finished to see if you guys approve of the design. It's very similar to the Eco Heroes design that has been around for maybe 10 years now. I just changed some of the wording up. We've also been getting a lot of gift cards and stuff. So I think we're pretty good on prizes. Now we're just kind of awaiting people to participate and hand in their projects for the Eco Heroes contest. And hearing from Linda in past years, it usually all comes in at the end of that week. So we still have about 2 weeks before we start seeing a lot of submissions, hopefully. So that's what's going on with Eco Heroes. Now, Andrew, do you want to talk about the panel discussion or do you want me to discuss on that?
How about you go ahead and then I'll jump in when I have something to say.
Okay. So we've unfortunately been really struggling with that. Very few people have been willing to participate or have really gotten many responses for Eco Heroes. We've kind of gone to the overflow, and just me, Linda, I, and Andrew have just been kind of emailing as many people as possible. We currently still have only 2 people participating in the panel discussion, and we're kind of running out of time with that, but hopefully we can find people within the next week or so. We just sent out a few more emails yesterday to some new people that Linda and Andrew, I think, suggested. So hopefully we'll hear back from them. There are more IU teachers. So yeah, I'll keep you guys all updated on that. We're getting sandwich boards tomorrow. Linda, I'm not sure if you saw that email that I sent you, but Linda's going to pick up some sandwich boards from the ice rink tomorrow, which we'll be able to put a half Eco Heroes sign up and also a half panel discussion sign that we'll eventually make once we can get all the panel participants on the ballot, I guess, for that September 18th day. So it's just been a real struggle, I guess, to really get responses by email. And especially there's been a few responses with people that do have children that are young. They don't want to participate in person because of COVID. And I think that's definitely a discussion we should have maybe in a week or two as we get closer to the day, what's going on with the Delta variant, because who knows really what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, I guess, with that as well, including with Eco Heroes. So, yeah. Andrew, do you have anything to add?
Well, I would just like to say that Ben and I and Linda have attempted to wrangle this beast, so to speak, in that the actual project itself has taken up a lot more time than we anticipated, which is why we didn't go through the outreach working group for some of our points of contact for the panel, was because we weren't getting feedback, timely feedback from the working group when we were trying to make those decisions. So we decided at a certain point to just go ahead and not reach out to people as best we could in an attempt to try and move this thing along. We're getting to the point coming up. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll let you finish. I just had my hand up earlier, so I didn't want to let it get too far. Sorry, break. I actually was hoping to kind of, since it's gotten to this point, help with a lot of that too, since I'm the head of the outreach group on that. I was actually going to send out an email earlier, since it's been, it seemed like things have kind of gotten a bit stale and maybe people weren't reaching back out, but I'd like to start getting more involved with that. And a few of the people who were on the invite list and were high votes, I am actually, for other reasons, have a few conversations coming up with for other things, and I can overlap, with maybe if some people aren't getting back, over email, since I'm talking to a few of these people in person in the next coming weeks, like next week.
Yeah, I would reach out to Ben and I on that, specifically because some of those people I think have reached out to us. Some of the top vote getters have reached out to us that they're unable to participate. So we just don't want you to go back and re-ask them, because, then we don't want to seem like we're harassing them to get involved, But no, I appreciate you reaching out to people as is appropriate. What I was going to say is we're getting to the point here in the next couple weeks where, as Ben alluded to, we're going to have some tough conversations regarding the feasibility of this celebration. We're at the point where, like you said, we only had 2 people who reached out. We originally were aiming for 4 or 5. We have questions on the state of COVID and the Delta variant that make many people nervous. That's one of the top questions I've been getting from people reaching back out to me was, is this going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? What are the safety precautions that are going to be taking place? So people definitely, especially in our community, are nervous about it. And we want to respect that as we move forward. But with the lack of commitment and the lack of certainty, I'm going to say in the next couple of weeks, as Ben alluded to, again, we're going to have to make some tough calls. So I just want to kind of brace everyone for that potential conclusion, because while it's not ideal, I think at a certain point it might be necessary. Yes, Linda.
I agree with you, Andrew, that it's conceivable and maybe even probable that we might have to cancel everything in person at the last minute. But I personally would like to continue with our planning. We've got, a new list of people to contact, and but we have a lot of outstanding questions, like the ones I sent this week via email. Like, how long should it last and what's the format? Because the people that we're reaching out to, we need to be able to tell them that, rather than just saying, hey, you want to be on a panel discussion on Saturday? So I'd like to talk about that tonight and move forward as if everything is still going to be going on. And then if we have to cancel at the last minute, then that's what we'll do.
Okay. I say then let's just go through your questions one by one and try to answer as many of them as we possibly can, if that makes sense. Starting with how long
I don't have those I don't have those in front of me right now.
I can pull them up. Give me a second. Okay. So you sent an email and you said, be thinking about the format of the panel discussion. Should the panelists each provide a short presentation on their topic? Should they do that and then answer questions? Or should it just be a question and answer format? I think a short presentation and then questions and answers would be fine, but a short presentation being like 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, short, not, a lengthy process. Because like I said, my vision is that the panel will only ideally take an hour to an hour and a half. No longer than an hour and a half would I anticipate.
Right. That was another question. How long should it last? And based on the format, that's how many people we would invite. But yeah, we didn't know how long, when Ben and I were discussing it, you wanted this to go on. Any other thoughts?
I like the idea of, like what Andrew said, around an hour and a half. I think if it was really short, people might not be interested in it. And then obviously we wouldn't want it to be too long, have like really big speeches either.
Completely agree.
Yeah, in my experience, somewhere between 75 minutes and 90, you start to lose people. So I'd second perhaps not going too much beyond that.
Yeah, because I see a 2-hour lecture in my mind and it's like, wow, that's a long time just to sit in a chair and listen,
Yeah.
But I think an hour is too short to really delve into anything of substance. Especially if we're going to invite 4 people and have 4 people give an introduction and then answer questions. If 4 people give a 5-minute introduction, that's already a third of your time gone if it's only an hour-long event.
Hour and a half seems right to me.
Agreed.
Okay. Does everyone generally also agree that it should be a short introduction from each panelist and then we go into a question and answer format?
I think that'd be ideal.
Okay. Anyone else have any input or concerns maybe about that?
I have a
I just want to make
question.
sure everyone's being included. Yeah.
So it's just a personal introduction and they will not have time for maybe like a 5-minute just oral presentation. Is that part of it, or would it just be like, would their presentation be effectuated through questions and answers?
I envision them to give a not just an introduction to themselves for 5 minutes, but a 5-minute elevator speech on what they think about what their particular expertise is. That's how I was envisioning it.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well, Linda. I was thinking a short, my name is Professor X, not Professor X, like, from the comic book series. But my name is Professor X. I study Y and how it impacts Z at Indiana University. I serve in these positions if as relevant. And then this is how I think my field would think about how Bloomington should develop itself in the future. Surrounding our topic in that way, and give a brief, overview of their thoughts on the matter. And then we move into specific questions to each of them or all of them about, that topic. That was how I was envisioning it.
Matt?
Yeah, so that kind of leads me to wonder if someone asks a question that could be answered by any or all of them, how we do that, how we keep that question from taking over the whole thing, like how do we decide who gets to speak how long on each answer, because otherwise we might not get through very many questions.
Could just leave it up to a moderator to decide what's appropriate for the sake of time. Oh, sorry, Didamia, for speaking.
Well, I think it's probably a good idea to have questions written out in advance if we want to give audience members index cards or something if they want to participate. But that way we can sort out duplications and maybe do a rough cut.
As well as that would help build in some COVID safety into the matter, because it wouldn't have people lining up in the aisles to speak in front of a microphone.
Right.
Well, what about us coming up with the questions so we can send the questions to the panelists in advance so they have some idea about what they're going to, be talking about?
That's
I mean,
it
seems to me if we take questions from the audience, that's going to use up a lot of time.
Well, if they're written out in advance, they wouldn't be. They'd be the same as questions. I mean,
I think we should have a few questions written out though, just in case we do run the risk of people in the audience not asking questions. If you've ever been in an event where that's happened, it's quite embarrassing and yeah, it takes the steam out of the room. Sorry, Andrew.
No, Corey, I was gonna say we should King Solomon it and have a pool that we prepare ahead of time with EC questions. Send those questions or a sample of them to the panelists so we can say these are the type of questions we envision asking, as well as audience members will have the opportunity to submit questions in writing that we will screen, and then we can hand those over to the moderator at the end and be like, for the last 20 minutes, we're going to do these questions.
So how about this? The topic is, what do you think Bloomington will look like 50 years from now? Since this is,
have we decided that? Isn't it?
No, actually, we haven't. I was just going to say, well, actually, what I was going to say was, how about each EC member come up with a question and send it around via email?
Okay.
I agree with that.
So, Andrew, you can go on with the plethora of questions I sent around.
Okay. We answered this next one. So we answered that one. How many different panelists should we invite? I think we've settled on having 4 being the optimal number to participate. We've already invited more than we originally planned anyway, because we had more people decline or be unable to make it than we anticipated, I think. But I think we should still aim to have 4 people ideally participate if we can.
I was kind of thinking 5, just because I like odd numbers, I suppose.
Well, 5 is fine. I'm just thinking, if we have 2 currently, doubling it is already a feat. But if we have 3 people respond and want to participate, by all means, I'm open to that as well. I'm just saying first target should be 4.
Yeah, if
You
we have
could do 4 and a moderator.
Yeah. I mean, if we have an extra person who agrees, is great. I don't see a problem with going to 5, but yeah, if we're having trouble getting for 2, I think shooting for 4 is the best option right now.
So are we, besides COVID, does anybody have a sense of why people are saying no?
I guess I can take that one. So we've also gotten a lot of no responses. We've gotten a couple that's just not my thing really. And yeah, that's kind of where it's been going. I think also if people want to know more specifically who we've been contacting and what we've been saying to them and the transactions that we've been having, please email me and I'll try to be as transparent with you guys as possible. And also I just wanted to say this is not really relevant, but Matt came up with the idea with 2 different flyers on one big flyer. So I just want to give him credit where it's due.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Ben, have you reached out to Sarah Mincy from the Environmental Resilience Institute yet?
Yes, I did.
Cool. Okay.
She has children, and she said that unless it's online, she doesn't want to participate because of COVID.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID's been, I think, besides no answers, I think COVID's probably been the biggest concern people have had. Just in general, I think people are very uncertain about I've gotten a lot of questions, what are the safety precautions? What's the backup plan? Is this going to be online? I would prefer it to be online, those sorts of things. Don?
Just an observation from some of the people when I've been passing out flyers. COVID seems to be a concern that I've heard from in talking with people when I've been passing out flyers. I think it's the big elephant in the room, or gorilla.
Definitely agree. Should we invite an MC? So this was, Linda had a thought of invite. She had 2 potential MCs that she thought we could invite. That she thought if we could get them would be really cool. The first being former Mayor Mark Cruzan, who in addition to being the former mayor of Bloomington is also a stand-up comedian. And in general, I've seen him MC events before. He's good. He keeps it light, he keeps it funny, he keeps it moving forward. And the second would be you didn't realize he was a comedian, did Damia?
No, I did not.
Yes, he's performed at the Comedy Attic, I believe.
Well, I believe it, but that's hilarious.
But the other one was longtime community journalist and icon Bob Salzberg, who MCs plenty of events, including most of the political debates in town. So he's very in tune with the direction of Bloomington's going. And in addition to both of them being good MCs, Linda and I both agreed that they would also be good contributors in a way to the conversation in helping move it forward, as well as if they had input as well, they wouldn't be bad sources to get input from. You know, if you had to pick an MC to interject in the conversation, both of those people are fine contributors, I would say. But we posed the question to you all if you agree or not on bringing in an MC. I'll be MCing Eco Heroes. That's a different thing than MCing a panel discussion of important people. So what do you all think?
Dave has a question.
I'd vote for Salzberg, especially given his Friday radio program where he deals with all kinds of issues. And I think he's good at the Friday radio program. And I would vote for him before Cruzan.
I concur.
Maybe if we have to cancel the in-person, maybe he'd like to have the panel discussion on his radio program.
That's interesting, I thought.
Because there'd be a built-in audience.
And it's an easy way to tune in, you know, everyone can find the online stream of it. Yeah, that's an idea.
Would WFIU go with that?
I don't know why they wouldn't be.
I think maybe. Yeah, I think it's a good idea too.
I bet Salzberg chooses the topics, or at least has a lot to say about them. So, yeah.
Yeah. And he's familiar with the community, very much familiar with the community.
Okay, so it sounds like we have general broad support for inviting Bob Salzberg. And I don't think anyone would say they're opposed to Cruzan as a backup, right? I don't think anyone has any objection to him attending. All right, excellent. Great idea, Linda. I want to give you credit on that. That was 100% Linda's idea. And Ben, I think, contributed as well to that. They just told me, and I thought it was a great idea as well. So then, Linda, you then sent a follow-up. Any ideas on advertising the discussion? By that, obviously, you mean how should we get people to attend the discussion?
Yes.
So we have so Don said he's been flyering. Have we?
I think that's just been for Eco Heroes, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, we can community flyer around town in the various spaces where people can hang flyers that the public sees, like in the library, on IU's campus, those sorts of places, around SPIA, around the biology building. Those areas most likely to garner some interest. Online as well. Do you have any other ideas, Linda?
No, I was trying to think about organizations that we could contact. Oh, and We'll also have the sandwich boards out.
One thing I found out about the flyers is a lot of the business, very much almost all the businesses do not, if they're owned by corporations, do not want flyers for the public. They're fine for their break rooms, but not for public display.
Good to know. Ben?
So yeah, I also just wanted to talk about like handing out flyers, because if we're going to do that for the panel discussion, I'm not sure if that's very fair, because I just want to say that Don has literally handed out over 200 flyers, and he's like gone all over Bloomington. Like it's incredible how many flyers he's handed out for Eco Heroes. But I don't know if that's very fair to ask him to do that by himself again, basically. So.
No, and I didn't mean to imply ask Don to do all the work. I meant Don said handing out flyers. It would be ideal if we could get other people to do so as well. But also it would have been nice if we could have had the Eco Heroes flyer like on the front and then had the discussion on the back if we had been prepared ahead enough in time to do such a thing.
Well, also, I think one of the things, regardless, is going to be, again, our friend COVID. And if we pass out another couple hundred flyers, that's kind of almost contrary to the mission of the Environmental Commission. I'm not sure how it would effectively reach the audience, that if we are going to have an audience, public or online.
Sam, did you have a question?
Yeah, we were asking for suggestions of how to reach people to gain interest in this event. And I've been doing a little research on Facebook boosting to boost a Facebook post. It's cheaper than taking out an advertisement physically in a lot of magazines and radio spaces. And you can just like do it per day. And sometimes it's as little as $1 a day. And especially if we're just doing it for an event just from a few weeks from now, especially if we have a little bit extra money in our budget this year, I think a Facebook boost could be really effective, and we don't have to mess with the logistics of printing and like going far away and handing flyers out. I think the only way to tell exactly how much it would cost is to go through the EC Facebook page and set it all up, and then it tells you how much it would be. I'm happy doing that if someone else doesn't want to.
Hey Sam, it's $10 per boost. So okay. That's not too steep at all. I think that's a great idea.
And
how long does that last?
Ben, do you know how long?
It's just for the day. Like it will make sure that that post is seen by more people that you're connected with.
In my experience, you can change how much it costs per day. So when I ran for office, I ran ads on social media, and I could change it to where I only spent, during unimportant times, I'd only spend $2 or $3 per day sometimes. And it would just show up on a few times per day, not constantly. But as we got closer to election day, we spent $10, $15, $20 a day for those last few days. And it really just kept hitting people throughout the day. So you can change how intense the actual advertising is by how much you're willing to spend per day. So it's flexible, is my point.
Don has a hand up.
Oh, Don?
Yeah, MC Iris has been doing a lot of their contact work, outreach work with Facebook. So I see the advantage of Facebook.
And during these COVID years and days, more people are online more often too. So I just think naturally we might get more exposure this way than, you know, maybe a few years in the past.
What fraction of people like me have absolutely nothing to do with Facebook? Probably a small fraction, but
I think a number of people, Dave.
I joined Facebook when they first came out and quit after a week once I didn't like it. So
Does anyone know about other social media pages like Instagram or Twitter? I'm not on those sites, but maybe that's another option possibly for promoting Eco Heroes in the panel discussion.
Instagram is owned by Facebook, so when you buy Facebook ads, they automatically go on Instagram as well.
Wow.
I learned that when I bought ads, and then I went on Instagram and noticed I had ads for myself, and I didn't plan on it. It was very strange. But yeah, Twitter, I'm not so sure about. Twitter actually has a surprisingly low number of users. It just gets a lot of attention. I think it's, let me see, I can't remember. They, yeah, they only have 206 daily active users, 206 million, I'm sorry, not 206. 206 million, which is actually very, very low for social media. So I don't think we'd get as much value from Twitter as we would from Facebook and Instagram. The other big one is YouTube, but those are more expensive, obviously, because they're video form. Does anyone else have any experience with social media advertisement, or is it just me? Okay, well, it's definitely worth looking into, Sam and Ben.
Yeah, if oh, sorry, Andrew.
No, go ahead.
Sam, if you want to email me and we can kind of discuss ways to best do that, if you want to help me do that, that would be great.
Got it.
Another question? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, what were you asking about the next question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next question was the title. What you asked us to choose between what do you want Bloomington to be like in 50 years, or what do you think Bloomington will be like in 50 years? I agree with Damien that I like, what do you want Bloomington to be like in 50 years? Though that opens up the question to being broad.
It's more visionary and less possibly apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Exactly my thought.
Yes.
We would just have to be sure to steer the panelists, to remain on an environmentally related topic, because I think, what do you want Bloomington to be like in 50? There's a lot of things we want to be different about Bloomington in 50 years, and not all of them are environmental in nature. You know, some of them are social, some of them are economic, and we want to stray away, I think, from them focusing too much on aspects outside of our purview. But we could do that through the questions, I think.
Oh, that's a good point. When I came up with those questions for you, I was just assuming everybody in the universe would think environmentally. Why wouldn't they?
Exactly. You know, that's our own. We might be a little biased, Linda. Might be a little biased. But no, I think I agree. I think what do you want Bloomington to be like in 50 years? I agree with Sam. Sam and Corey. It's a little less apocalyptic, potentially. And people like talking about what they want to see happen, not what they think is going to happen. I think if we're trying to attract audience numbers, I think they'd be more interested in a visionary conversation than necessarily one just focused on reality, if you want to portray it that way. Any input from anyone else on the title, or do people generally support what do you want Bloomington to be like in 50 years? I'm seeing a lot of nodding of heads. Okay, I think that's our answer, Linda. I think what do we want Bloomington to be like in 50 years?
Okay.
And then that's all the questions that you sent us.
Oh, well, I have one more.
Okay.
Would you prefer this start at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock?
What time does Eco Heroes end?
10. And it'll be over by 11:30. I think we'd originally discussed 1 o'clock, and then I was wondering, I was second guessing that, thinking that since it's on a Saturday, people might not be finished with lunch and such, and at 2 o'clock that could be a segue into the afternoon, evening.
2 sounds better to me.
Great.
I like to.
It sounds like the backup would be a Friday noon edition from 12 to 1.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Scott?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying, it sounds like the backup plan would be a Friday noon edition from 12 to 1.
Do you mean the radio program?
On the radio.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Okay, but if we don't, knock on wood, have to have the backup, it sounds like is the majority for 2 o'clock?
Yeah, are we going to nix the idea of like a reception then?
Sorry, what'd you say?
We originally had discussed at one point potentially doing a small reception between Eco Heroes and the panel if they were close enough together, but I don't think 2 o'clock will put it close enough to do that. Do we just want to nix it then, especially with COVID?
Oh, Matt, go ahead.
I don't have strong feelings about the time. Either one's fine, but I think maybe since people's main concern is about COVID, maybe we don't want to do anything in between. Maybe it's just 2 events and we don't encourage indoor mingling beyond the events.
That's my general thought as well, Matt.
I concur.
Ben?
I also feel like if we're worried about that, then we probably shouldn't have the event, if that's like such a concern. Because I don't know, I think we shouldn't be like tiptoeing around each other throughout the process. If COVID's that bad, maybe we should just hold it online. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, Bloomington Hospital is literally turning people away now because of the amount of COVID people. I think we should probably preemptively
Why don't we
have
make
a
that
serious
call
discussion.
tonight? Why don't we just make that decision tonight?
I
Because,
agree.
yeah, if it's only like 3 weeks away, it's going to make it a whole lot easier to plan it if you know what direction you're going. If you're trying to do two paths at once, it's going to make it twice as much work.
We also don't have to, we could also just vote to move it entirely online now and
That's
not
what I'm
cancel
saying.
it. Oh, okay, I just want to make sure that we're not just
Yeah,
talking
that
about
is what
canceling.
I'm suggesting, is that we make that decision now.
Okay. I don't think there's really, we can have conversation on it, but I think we're going to have to at one point just have a up and down vote
Why don't we
between
take a
the two.
straw poll?
Second that.
Let's take
Okay.
a straw poll, Andrew. And so it's not a binding vote. It's just testing the waters.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, let's do a straw poll and then have some conversation if there's any disagreement, and then move along to making a decision, if that sounds
Okay.
right. Straw poll, everyone should, does everyone know how to, everyone just raise their hand on screen and I'll go through and count. If you think we should move the event online now and just plan online solely, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think. 10. Yeah, it looks basically unanimous. I think the only person I didn't see raise their hand was maybe Matt. Did you want to explain why? I don't want to put you on the spot. I just meant
That's fine.
we want.
Yeah, I'm not here to try to convince anybody either way or anything. It just, as someone who's worked in person, masked for a very long time, and every time I go places and see the flyers, whether it's a Bike Smith's or a restaurant or all the wonderful places they've been distributed, they're bustling and in person and mandatory masks. I thought that if society's open is all. But if it's, such an issue that it's discouraging participants, both from speakers and from viewers' standpoints, then I can totally understand the other way. My feeling was just, I thought we were okay. And the only reason that I was suggesting maybe cutting out the social in between was because in the past we talked about things like lemonade, and that would involve masks coming down. I was still of the opinion that in-person would work, but I'm a fine sport about being outvoted. It's not an issue.
Well, the problem is it's a moving target.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, the numbers could double for all we know, and then all of a sudden we're on full lockdown again. You never know with this thing. Sam, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I believe Scott had his hand raised before me. If he wants to go.
Sorry, that
Yeah.
was just a vestige of voting to move it online.
Okay.
I'll put it down.
Okay, so my point, I just wanted to say it also might just look really good for us if we move it online, just with what we're hearing already from people's replies and the public sentiment. It might just be better to play it safer than not with this sort of thing. So
Don?
I was thinking in terms of approaching the county health officer and asking her advice. As the county's, I respect her position, and I think that she probably has far more insight into how things are going and sees. We're looking at 3 weeks, just getting really short time. And things nationally and globally seem to be going back to hell in a handbasket towards COVID with the Delta variant and other variants that are popping up. But perhaps consulting her and getting her honest opinion.
But didn't you just vote for online and now you're backing off, or what?
I'm wanting to get clarity from probably the most reliable person in our community. And I really think it probably should be online, but I want, on the other hand, the point being that I went to Kroger's yesterday and a significant number of people weren't wearing masks, as an example. But
Well, there's no counting for
priest
it.
being, yes, and stupidity.
There's no cure
Well,
for
anyhow,
it.
that was just a thought. Death can be.
I don't have any trouble talking to Penny Caudill, but I think out of consideration for Linda and Ben and Andrew, we should do it quickly because I think there's work that has to be done. And if we drag this out, it's just going to be harder on the people trying to organize it.
Yes.
Matt's had his hand up for a while.
Thank you, Dave. I'm totally fine with us doing an official vote and moving it online. As much as I respect the public health official's opinion, I agree that there's no real reason to drag it out. And if that means we have, 4 panelists suddenly, then that's awesome. One thing I did want to bring up though, as someone, I know there's probably a number of members here who've never had an in-person EC meeting. You can get so much more done in 2 hours in person than you can on a digital format. And so when we had arrived on things like an hour and a half and our format that involved people's presentations and then question and answer, we might have to rethink almost all of that once we shift online, which once again, I'm fine with. But I wanted to put that out there, how the format poses additional challenges.
I mean, don't let me muddy the waters on this by any means, so shoot me down if this sounds dumb, but I still think there's maybe a scenario where we could maybe have the speakers in one room, very socially distanced, and then like have the rest of it kind of online to kind of help, with keeping the flow of things going, so you don't have to deal with things like people not being muted or, people having internet connections. I still think that could be a very realistic possibility.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, Corey.
They could even be outdoors or something, but again, this will be based on their willingness. So
yeah,
I agree. I love Switchyard Park. Yeah.
Sam's got his hand up for quite a while too.
No, he had it raised from earlier. I would typically agree, Corey, except my feedback, especially from people with children like Sarah Mincy, is that they don't want to be in person at all. I think it's less the number of people and more the people aspect of it.
Yeah,
which is fair. If I had unvaccinated children, I wouldn't even be going to the grocery store. So I can completely understand that. So my instinct is that it likely will either have to be all one way or all the other. But that's just my instinct. That's not a decision I'm making for the body. That's just my opinion.
And I agree actually with your mindset. That was just kind of my giving an idea to the group just in case some people thought maybe that was better. Because I mean, yeah, no, COVID's scary. I got it in January, and believe me, I still, have a cartilage buildup in my lungs and COVID brain here and now and then. It's not a fun thing to, risk for people. Yeah, especially if you got little ones.
Yep. My entire family just tested positive 2 weeks ago. So.
Holy cow.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not vaccinated. So, yeah, not fun. So I sympathize with people's desire to remain safe. And as such, I'm ready personally to vote to move it online officially. Unless there's any further discussion to be had. Matt?
No, I would agree with. I would second a motion if it was made, but I wanted to clarify both events, Eco Heroes as well, or just the panel discussion moving online.
I would say Eco Heroes as well, because that's even a greater risk, because there's children under 12 who generally attend.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
And we can mail out their prizes and whatnot. Or have them pick it up contactless, however we are able to do it. But I don't see the point in getting a bunch of children from a bunch of different schools and a bunch of different areas and families together. And then all it takes is one person to be positive, and then we've infected 3 schools. And then they're like, oh, where did that come from? Oh, we went to an EC event with the city and everyone got sick. And I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, me neither.
I agree.
Yeah, I motion we take it to a vote, even though it's already got its first and second. Link, yeah.
All right.
Second.
Second, third.
Okay.
All right. We'll move down through a roll call just so it's official. Sam Armstrong,
Yay.
Matthias Benko,
Yes.
Matt Caldy,
Yes.
Don Eggert.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mike Litwin,
Yes.
Dave Parkhurst,
Yes.
Corey Ray,
Yes.
Scott Shackelford,
Yep.
Damia Whitney.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your help. That was a unanimous vote in favor of moving both Eco Heroes and the ensuing panel online. I think this is the best step forward safety-wise, and it helps relieve some anxiety for people who may participate. We may now be able to reach back out to people such as Dr. Sarah Mincy and ask if she's willing to reconsider participating, as well as we'll be able to send out everyone. We can recontact basically everyone who didn't want to participate because of COVID, and give them additional details as well on the format and the structure and the timing wise of how things will go. So I think we nailed out a lot of important details tonight. Linda, was there anything else that you wanted to discuss in regards to outreach, or Ben or Corey or anyone?
Not me that I can think of right now.
Hey, I think we all appreciate the work you guys have put in very much. And yeah, please know going forward, if I can help, alleviate some of that,
Thank
just
you.
the workload.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah, we'll definitely be including you in those conversations, especially since you're meeting with some of those people in the coming weeks.
And it's only 3 of them. So, sorry if I kind of made it seem like it was bigger than it was. It just overlaps with work.
3 is plenty.
Yeah.
Excellent. So seeing no other agenda items for the outreach working group, we can move on to biodiversity. Ben, did you want to present on biodiversity?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. So Linda and I are just editing the pledge and brochure right now, and sorry that has taken a little bit longer than we initially anticipated, but we'll send that to you as soon as we get that done, and then hopefully we can start contacting the neighborhood associations eventually in the next month. Sorry again, that's taken so long. I just redid some of the stuff to make it look a little bit more professional. But I'll definitely try to get that to you all in the next month or so. As we focus on Eco Heroes in the panel discussion right now, that might be next on the list. Yeah.
I was muted. Perfect. Does anyone have any questions for Ben on biodiversity? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Ben, for all your work that you've done on that. No need to apologize at all. We know you're a busy person. Yeah.
Sorry, I also wanted to give a brief update. I've finished the wildlife and natural areas section of the Becky or updated version of it. And I'll also send that probably after Eco Heroes as well for the biodiversity group to look at.
Wonderful. Anyone have any questions for Ben? All right. As you may have garnered, we'll move on then on our agenda. As you may have garnered from the commission reports earlier, a lot of commissions and boards in Bloomington and Monroe County actually cancel either their July or August meeting. We did not cancel either this year because we're just busy bees over here on the Environmental Commission. But my gift to you is that we have no new or old business this month. So with that, we'll move along to commissioner announcements. Oh, Matt.
It's possible that you might want a lot more time for this, but I was still interested to hear the conclusion of the furthering of our parking minimums discussion you initiated a couple months ago. I thought maybe that, I don't know if that's new or old business, but.
Yes, I have. So that was a project that I was doing personally that I have withdrawn from consideration by the city. It received severe backlash from the city clerk, who really didn't want anyone to do anything with parking minimums. because she handles parking tickets and she doesn't want to do any more of them. So the environmental, social, and economic benefits don't matter because the city clerk does not want to process more parking tickets. So I have withdrawn it for consideration because it has received backlash from a public official. And I did not see a path forward after she spoke against it at the parking commission. So unfortunately, that project is on indefinite hold for me. Dave.
A couple of years ago, this is personal commissioner announcement, right? A couple of years ago, I met with a bunch of people who were trying to figure out a way to make an organization that would help to sell locally produced food. And those people went on to create what you may have read about in the newspaper, the Rose Hill Farm Stop.
Yeah.
And I'd like to put in a good word for it.
Yeah.
This is a place in the old Morrison appliance store that if you go out Kirkwood, it's about 2 blocks past what's her name's restaurant, the Mexican restaurant. What's her name?
Juanita's.
Yeah, it's about 2 blocks beyond Juanita's, and it's a great place. It's a developing grocery store with a coffee shop as well, and I had a mocha there the other day, and it was quite good.
I've been there myself. It's great.
They're getting more and more people online or joining the group. And so I'd like to put in a good word for it. It's local food sold locally.
Thank you, Dave. Corey?
Sorry, I had to get muted there. I'm actually right down the street from that. I had no idea it was open. Like, I'm across the street from Juanita's, so I'll need to walk down. But yeah, just 2 quick announcements of interest to everybody. One, either this coming special session or the next session, Earth Charter, which is a youth-led climate group in Indiana, will be introducing legislation with Senator Ron Alting, bipartisan legislation, to get Indiana as a state to acknowledge the climate crisis in Indiana. So I just wanted to put in a plug there just so people know some cool stuff are happening. And in my capacity with Sierra Club as a legislative coordinator, I might get to actually help work on that. So fingers crossed that they'll have me. And then the other big announcement I wanted to give, just a little plug, is I know COVID is changing everything day by day, but there are interest from a few community members locally to re-up the old Sierra Club chapter here locally. So in the next coming weeks, if you guys want to put keep your eyes up for that, there are a few community members who are reestablishing the local club. I'm statewide, so I'll help with it, but it's not going to be kind of my purview on that, but just putting the plug there too for anyone who might want to get involved in some cool hiking groups, given how, COVID does or doesn't look. So.
Cool. Thanks, Corey. Didenia.
I sent around a forward from Maggie Sullivan before the meeting. I asked her about if there were any contingency plans for the event that Indianapolis started looking at Lake Monroe as a water source. And I thought what she had to say was pretty interesting. Apparently, they've already purchased an auxiliary reservoir that they're going to develop. So that's a good thing. And she said that people who had looked at it, because it is a topic of conversation, concluded that it was too expensive right now. So anyway, that's it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Didenia.
Yeah.
Any further reports for commissioner announcements? Scrolling through to see if there's any hands raised. Linda?
Yes, I've got a couple things. I just want to say that tomorrow is the official 50th birthday of the EC. So have a piece of cake tomorrow. And I also wanted to say that Mike has sent around a draft of the EC's history. Please look that over and give it all the time and effort that you can, because he has spent all summer working on this. voluntarily, and I really appreciate what he's done. And I'd like to get everybody's input on it so we can make a splash about it in the next couple of months.
It looks great, by the way. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm going to go through and look at it more carefully. I skimmed through it and I thought it looked great. I'm just going to go through with a finer tooth comb and give it my final stamp of approval this weekend. But thank you, Mike, for all your work on that from everyone.
Sure. As I said, if you've got anything to add to it, and I'm sure it needs more editing, no matter how much I do. So.
It was very cool seeing all the names of people doing everything in the world right now in Bloomington who, you know, either, were on the commission at one point in time.
I was really
cool.
surprised by some of them.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have any further announcements, Linda?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Anyone else have any announcements for commissioner announcements? Mine is just a personal one. I am now officially registered to take my LEED Green Building Associate Certification exam. So I will be focusing on that for the next several months in an effort to get certified to help develop and certify green buildings. So that'll be a cool little project of mine to do. Dave?
Yeah, on Dedamia's point about Indianapolis trying to take over part of Lake Monroe, when the Lake Monroe friends were holding their initial meetings about what questions the research program should take up, people were talking about invasive plants, and I said, well, what about invasive cities, which would be Indianapolis.
Wonderful. Any further commissioner announcements before we adjourn? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
With that, we are adjourned at 7:33 p.m. Thank you all and have a great rest of your evening.